When you want to listen to music, you have so many options nowadays. Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, SoundCloud, YouTube, Audio Mac, vinyl if you're an old school guy, the one cassette tape that's stuck in your dad's 1997 Honda Civic. As a consumer, listening to released music has never been this easy before. What about listening to your own unreleased music though? You want to make sure you have the perfect app for when you get in the car with your friends and they all just kind of go, yeah, nice, this is sick, you know, cool. If you make music, then you know the frustration of trying to find the perfect app to catalog all your stuff and send it out to people when it's ready. There are actually quite a few options out there for us. I don't really want to do a long, flowery, poetic intro for this video. This is just some informational stuff here. And also, I just want to note that this is my opinion that we're going to get into. So I've personally used all these apps at different times in my life or in different ways. So this is just based off what I've experienced. I'm not being paid by any of these companies. Although if they want to pay me, hey. But I should disclose that I did get a free upgrade on my Disco account because I know somebody who works there and they hit me up about it. But I didn't tell them I was making this video, so even that is unrelated from this. So before I can start comparing these companies, we should start thinking about what we're actually looking for. Here's what I got. Number 1, audio quality. Does the music sound good when you listen to it? Does it get overly compressed? Does it skip or sound weird? Number 2, the ease of sharing links. How easy is it to send to other people? Do they have any extra features for doing that? Number 3, privacy. How easy is it to get hacked? If you're an artist of notoriety especially, then it's really important to have good security because people are going to want to get those songs and sell them to a kid in Poland for Bitcoin. Number 4, convenience and mobile use. Does the app work? Is it easy to listen on? What about to upload and send files? What if you only have an Android? These are the kind of questions I want to answer. Number 5, the intangibles. What makes this app different from another app? Each of these apps has their own kind of flavor and specialty, so there's going to be things that stand out about each of them. Number 6, the cost. Does it cost money to use this app? If you want to get certain features, are there tiers? Is it worth it? Let me work it, Those 6 are not ranked at all in order in terms of importance. Everybody's going to have different things that they value more or less than somebody else, so don't look at it that way. It's just the order that I listed them off. So the apps that I'm comparing today are SoundCloud, the Untitled app, Disco, and Dropbox. So we can start with SoundCloud because it was the first one that I ever personally used out of all those. It was where I put my unreleased music, but I was using SoundCloud even back when there was no distinction between what was unreleased and what was released because nobody was listening. I was using SoundCloud even to this day as my primary unreleased app up until some point this year when I switched to one of the other competitors. In terms of audio quality, I'll be the first to admit that I don't really have an ear for that kind of stuff, or at least I didn't before I started doing research for this video. I know I'm a musician, so I should have a certain bass level, and I probably do, but I'm mostly a songwriter and a performer and a co-producer and stuff. I don't do a lot of mixing and mastering, so I don't have a ton of confidence in my ear for that kind of stuff. I'm also so used to using SoundCloud that I kind of forget what the actual file sounds like because that was really my workflow for years. I would upload my unreleased to SoundCloud, and that's where I would go when I wanted to listen to it. And the reason why I bring this all up is because SoundCloud has a reputation for compressing the audio that you post. This basically means that in order to save some money for them and decrease the amount of data going in and out, they compress your files to make them a little bit smaller. As a result, this supposedly makes your music sound worse. Now, before I started researching for this video, I didn't really have an ear for it, but after this video, I can say that I honestly kind of do. Since SoundCloud is the first one that I'm starting with, I'm not going to talk about it too much in this section, but I am going to compare all of them as I go on, so stay tuned for the other sections to see what I think about SoundCloud's audio. In terms of sharing links, I think SoundCloud is pretty easy. The one thing you need to keep in mind is the URL, right? You have to actually click share and then go and copy that specific URL with that specific tag at the back, and then you're going to send that out, and someone has to click that link specifically to get to there. This is a secret link that can also be changed at any point. If it ever gets into the wrong hands, there's a button you can click that will just reset that link so that the next time you send it out, you won't have to worry about the people who had it before. Now, privacy when it comes to SoundCloud is honestly a little bit of an issue. Part of this isn't really their fault. It's just the fact that from all of these apps, they have the most notoriety. So people who want to hack you are going to start at a place like SoundCloud. I'm not famous and I get emails about trying to reset my password on SoundCloud all the time. So it's if they're trying to hack me, I can only imagine what they're trying to do to other people. I know one artist that I'm a fan of named DaysGod got hacked earlier this year and had some songs leak. And as a result, he said on Twitter he's not keeping his music on there anymore. I trust him, honestly, so I'm reconsidering keeping any of my music on there. There are also like built-in SoundCloud downloader apps on websites so that people can just take SoundCloud links and just download that audio. So if you're worried about people downloading the audio that you send it to, you just have to be a little careful about sending SoundCloud links. Let's talk convenience. I mean, the one thing about SoundCloud that has always kept me tethered to it is just how easy it is to have all my music on that app. It's really solid for listening to your own music on the go. It works on mobile really well, and because it's not my primary DSP, when I go to my recently played, which is right there like on the home screen, I just have all of my demos that I've recently listened to. And I have hundreds of demos, so like I kind of don't want to sift through all of them every time. I just want to go right to the recent ones, and because of the way that they design the homepage, it's actually really convenient for me. So I'm a pretty big fan of that. And this wasn't always the case, but now you can upload files directly on mobile. So for a long time you had to be at your desktop to do it, which was kind of annoying, but now you can just do it right from your phone, which honestly is really convenient. In terms of intangibles, the one thing that makes SoundCloud completely different from these other apps is that it's actually a streaming service. None of these other apps have released music on them. They just have your files, whether those are unreleased songs or little ideas or whatever, right? SoundCloud actually just has it's a DSP. Like it just has all this other music on it. So if you're using it as a DSP, then for example, like your recently played is going to be filled with your unreleased songs and like other music you're listening to. I can imagine that gets kind of annoying. But to some people, it's probably really nice to have all your music inside one app. So it's something to think about. Also, the community aspect of it is cool. You know, you can receive messages and stuff. On the other platforms, I'm pretty sure not a single one has a messaging feature. Also, because it's a DSP, you have to remember to set your songs to private if you don't want other people to be listening to them. So when you upload unreleased stuff, you have to make sure you go in and check the private box so that it doesn't accidentally get blasted out to everybody who follows you. Also, because it's a streaming service, there are ads that play after the songs if you're not on the pro version of the listener side. And I'm going to get into the tiers of like pro later on SoundCloud, but that can get really annoying for me. I always just force close the app the second that it finishes playing through like one of my playlists because I know it's going to go right to an ad and I don't want to hear that shit. In terms of the cost, I pay $55 a year for the SoundCloud Pro plan. And what this gets me is it enables me to sign up for SoundCloud Premiere, which allows me to monetize my music on SoundCloud. Now, I probably make about like $10 to $12 a month, but if I'm paying $55 a year and I'm making like $120 a year, then I am making a profit, which is nice. So it's worth it for me to keep paying for that. With the Pro plan that I have, I can upload up to 6 hours of music. That sounds like a ton, but to be honest, like I'm getting pretty close to filling it up because I've been making music for, like almost a decade at this point. And SoundCloud's been around the whole time, and I don't really want to delete my old stuff. It's kind of cool to go back every once in a while, although sometimes it's like, oh my God, I was horrible. But like, it's nice to have it all in one place. So it's kind of annoying that I might be running out of space soon. The one thing that really frustrates me is that even though I pay this company $55 a year, I still have to hear ads because I don't pay for SoundCloud Go, which is the streamer version of the Pro thing. So it'd be really nice if I just had both of them in one package. I might even consider paying a little more just so I don't have to force close the app every single time because there's no way I'm sitting through one of those ads. Like I said, I switched apps recently, so let's get into the one that I switched to, Untitled. Sometime this year, I started seeing this app everywhere. And while I was generally pretty satisfied with my experience at SoundCloud, I think I was also ready to try something new. I saw a ton of music influencers and artists posting about Untitled, and I was like, sure, let me give it a shot. In terms of audio quality, I can definitely tell the difference between a file that I upload on here and on SoundCloud. Without changing the volume on my device, the song that I play is louder on SoundCloud than on Untitled, and it's just like a little bit like crunchier. So when I Google compression, which is what SoundCloud apparently does, it tells me that it's supposed to make the loud parts of my track a little quieter, which makes me wonder, like, if it's supposed to make it quieter, then why is SoundCloud louder? And I know all the engineers in the room are like rolling their eyes right now, but I'm an infant, I'm a child, I'm learning, right? So basically, devices and apps that use compression to keep the files smaller, they also do something called makeup gain. And what that is it basically turns up the volume to try to compensate for the amount of compression that they did. Now this is why it sounds crunchy. And I honestly can hear it now. I can hear the difference between Untitled and SoundCloud. And Untitled, frankly, sounds a little bit better. One thing I really like about Untitled is the link sharing. You can divide your songs into projects, and then you can either share just one of the tracks from the project, or you can share the entire project. And when you send those links, you have analytics on who's listening. And it's cool, like if someone has an Untitled account, you can see how many times they've played a song. And if somebody, even if they don't, you get a notification that like an anonymous person listened to your song. So this is cool because I can tell who's lying when I send somebody a link. I recently sent a song into a group chat with 2 people where one person gave feedback and another person followed up basically the same feedback. And the interesting thing is I only got 1 notification on Untitled, which means then most likely, unless the app is buggy, that person did not listen, which is very interesting, and I'm going to think about that in the future. Also, like, if someone keeps running up one of your songs, you keep getting notifications, which could either be kind of annoying or kind of flattering, and it might let you know that, hey, you might actually have one. The privacy is better than SoundCloud by default because less people know about it and they won't know to hack it, right? But also on top of that, there isn't a ripping app like there is for SoundCloud. And since Untitled is not really a streaming service, it's unlikely that someone's gonna develop something like that unless they're just like an evil person. There's also two-factor authentication, so you can turn that on to try to protect yourself a little bit extra. In terms of convenience, I think the upload process is very easy. You just save the track to your device and then go to upload on Untitled and boom, there it is. Listening back is also easy. However, I've had some issues where I uploaded a track to an album that already existed and I added that track in. And then when I play one of the older songs that should go into that next one, it sometimes skips it or doesn't play it. These seem like kind of early bugs in an app that is still relatively pretty new, so hopefully they'll fix stuff like that. I've also had people report that the links aren't working for them, although that's honestly only happened like less than 10% of the time. Just hopefully another thing that they'll get around to fixing. One big drawback about this app is that it's iOS only. So if you have an Android, not only are you terrorizing all your iPhone friends' group chats with your green bubbles, but you're also unable to download the Untitled app. They said on Twitter that it is coming at some point, but who knows how long that's going to take. Another issue is desktop functionality. When I tried to log in on my desktop, it started to make another account for me. And I was like, hey, I don't want another account. I just want to log into my original account, the one that I have on my phone. I might just be an idiot. It might be possible to do this, but I was struggling, so it's not super seamless. Let's just at least say it that way. The one way that Untitled stands out is the recording feature. So you can actually record audio right into the app, just like you do on like voice notes on your iPhone. To be honest, I haven't included this in my workflow because I'm pretty used to using the voice notes on iPhone. I don't really have any problem with those. And also, like, I generally use these apps not for like rough ideas, but for things that are already kind of like listenable. So I don't know if that's going to be a part of my workflow, but if that's something you're interested in, then it's totally an option on Untitled, and I don't think any of the other apps really have that. And in terms of pricing, this app is free, so if you have an iPhone, it's kind of like an obvious choice, right? And then there's Disco. Disco feels like the classiest option to me. I just got my own account, but I've used the service before because my manager has one. So when I was sending out my album link, the one that came out in August that you should stream right now, I was using a Disco link. So I'm pretty familiar with it, but I've been using it myself for about a week to get comfortable with it. For audio quality, I found that it's identical to Untitled, which means it's better than SoundCloud. Link sharing is pretty high tech on Disco. When you click to share a playlist, you're given the option of 3 different kinds of URLs. The public playlist URL, which is the one that you're going to send out to somebody. The internal playlist URL, which is meant for people on your team. And the direct download URL, which lets people download whatever it is that you're sending them. There's also a share tab where you can send directly from, and then you can see individual links and give people individual URLs to see who is clicking and whether or not they're actually clicking and how much they're clicking. Disco has by far the most robust system for tracking links so far. For privacy, Disco will allow people to set up multi-factor authentication by request. You need to reach out to them in order to set it up. There isn't just a button to turn it on. So it could be stronger than SoundCloud maybe, but it kind of has an annoying twist to it. For convenience, uploading is easy on desktop. There's multiple ways to upload from the desktop. There's a directly from Dropbox like transporter. There's also a bulk uploader if you're like just getting onto Disco and uploading like 100 songs at once. That makes your life a little easier. However, you can't upload from mobile from what I can tell, which is kind of annoying. Maybe you can do it from the browser version of Disco on your phone, but I also haven't tried that, so I'm not really sure. What makes Disco different? I would say it's the most professional option. And what I mean by that is that the tools for sending out things are really detailed. The interface is very sleek. There's also a tagging system. There's a reason why Disco is very popular with producers who are sending out beats, and it's also very popular with like sync companies who are trying to get artists to submit songs through playlists. If you fall into one of those buckets, then you might want to think about getting Disco. Now, Disco does cost money. It's $10 a month for the cheapest tier, and it can go all the way up into the hundreds if you start adding a ton of users and a ton of files, but the light plan should get you through what the average artist needs. That's going to be $10 a month. Let's look at Dropbox. Dropbox is a little bit different because it's not strictly a music app like the other 3. You could store other types of files, and it's also not specifically designed to be a music app, which I would say, like other things, is kind of a gift and a curse, right? For audio quality, I tested it, and it's about the same as Disco and Untitled, which means it's better than SoundCloud. Link sharing is simple on here, and you can see when people access the files as well, as long as you're on one of the pro plans. You can even see how many people are currently accessing the file. You can also see when they access the file. But again, this is all locked under the pro plan. For security, Dropbox does have two-factor authentication, and you can also disable downloads if you want to for whatever reason. For convenience, you can also upload from your phone, and you can listen back whenever you want to. However, I feel like the audio listening experience on Dropbox is maybe a little bit lacking in terms of the interface, and I think this is probably because Dropbox is not just designed to be a music app, so they're focused on doing a bunch of other stuff. They maybe didn't have as much time or care put into what the audio listening experience feels like they did on Untitled or on Disco. Again, that's just a matter of my opinion though. Where Dropbox can really stand out for an artist is the fact that you can upload more than just audio, right? If I want to put my press photos, my bio, music videos, any other files that I want to put, I can just throw them all on Dropbox. So if you're really organized on Dropbox, you could have everything on there. Any artist knows that we don't just have audio files. I'm always looking for a ton of other files all the time in my messy Mac Finder. And if I was a little more organized and I put it all in Dropbox, I would probably thank myself for that. In terms of pricing, you can get 2 terabytes of storage for $10 a month. There are more expensive options for higher amounts of storage as well. Alright, so what makes these apps actually better than just using the notes on your iPhone or going to text the file and then just locking your screen and when it's at the text thing so that it keeps playing with your screen locked? I'm sure most musicians know that little trick, but yeah. I personally don't like how the rewind button works on the Notes app because sometimes I want to play my stuff back and it's a little bit annoying. So I'm not a big Notes app guy. It works in a pinch, but I think I would definitely recommend honestly any of these 4 options above that. Some people are probably going to be like, where's Google Drive? I'm just not a fan of Google Drive, man. And this is my opinion, I don't know. I hate the permissions thing gets kind of annoying and it always takes so long to load whatever file I want to load, and it might just honestly be a bias that I've developed where it takes just as long on other apps, but because it's Google Drive I assume it's gonna take longer. It just drives me crazy. I don't know, I'm just not a big Google Drive guy unless I'm sending stems. If I'm sending stems, Google Drive is cool as long as they're not a giant folder. But yeah, Google Drive for listening back to music, it's not for me personally. If you're gonna ask me for my recommendation, I would say that if you're just getting started out, SoundCloud is fine. If you have an iPhone, get Untitled. If you're experienced and you don't have an iPhone, get Disco. Or if you're sending out so many links that you really want it to look professional, get Disco. Untitled, I think, is great for sharing between musicians. Just the way that it's designed feels like it's almost meant for that. Disco feels like something that you would send a label or you would send beats to an A&R. It's just a little bit more professional, It just looks really nice. Dropbox, I think, is a necessity, but using it as your music storage, I don't know if it's specific enough, I just really don't know if I would really enjoy listening back to my music on Dropbox, especially when Untitled is free. I just don't see that happening for me. If you're a heavy SoundCloud user, I could see SoundCloud making sense for you, especially if you make money off the streams like I do, although it's a pretty humbling amount. It's something, right? But those security concerns are real, especially once you hit a certain level, and that honestly kind of scares me off. And the audio quality thing, which I kind of always assumed was just producers being kind of pretentious, is actually totally true now that I've heard it. And that really makes me second guess listening to music on SoundCloud. So if you've got a little money to blow, or you have a label, or you like sending out custom playlists, Disco is great for that. If you're constantly sending out more than just audio files and storing a ton, if you're a big organizational freak, then honestly maybe Dropbox. So I think my overall recommendation would be Untitled for listening to your own music, sending it to other artists. Dropbox for storing all your files so that they're easy to send out. And if you have a little money to blow and you're constantly sending your music out to the more professional people in the music industry, then think about doing Disco instead of Untitled. Let me know if I should have covered a different app. And as always, like and subscribe. This is HADJI. Much love. Peace.